Hi, and welcome to It's Your Book. Today I have another book review for you, and this one is about Secrets of the Sealed Forest by J.T. Tenera. Now, this book is another self-published book. It came out a while ago, several years ago, many years ago actually. And it's a young adult book about these two friends who are into video gaming, and they get an invitation to go to a big video game demo, and then it turns out it's something else, and they get thrown into this magical adventure. I was really drawn to this one because of the video game aspect. I myself like to play video games quite a lot, and so I was really excited to start reading this book. So let me tell you what I think about it. First, I want to say that the description of all the magic in the book, the battles and the forest, how it comes to life, and all the magic in it and all that is really well done. It's very engaging and just really well described. I can picture the forest really well. That was great. I really loved the forest and its intricacies and how it was different from your regular old forest. That was really cool. The characters are definitely distinguishable. You can tell they're not all the same. The author did a really great job at capturing the professor's voice. That was very fun. Eric is depicted as this annoying kind of teenager who can't really think for himself very well, whereas Joseph is the reasonable one, and that really comes through as well. Now let's get to the stuff that in my opinion needed some more work, and I really do believe that this book could have benefited from at least one more pass of developmental editing and some content editing. It also needed some more proofreading. There were some problems with commas and run-on sentences and that fun stuff. First, I'm going to go into the minor things, little things that the book didn't quite succeed in for me. The jokes, they were fun in the beginning. They were okay. Later on, they started to feel forced and were not really all that funny anymore, especially when they were done in situations that don't warrant a joke. Another minor thing, well, actually for me was a big thing. It was really annoying. All these dialogue tags, they're very distracting. We don't need them. Said is enough, and body language will show how they say it, and responses will show how they say it. We don't need he joked, or he attempted, whatever, or encouraged, or warned. That's fluff that's not needed, and it takes the reader out of the story. It certainly took me out of the story at times and was really just annoying. Sometimes they're just missing, so at times it is not immediately apparent who's speaking, and at some times it's not clear at all who's speaking. Sometimes it gets clear after a little while, but sometimes it's not clear at all, and if the reader has to go back to understand who's speaking, they have to reread a passage. You're already losing the reader. Aside from all these dialogue tags that were too much and not necessary, there were also unsatisfying, vague descriptors that you want to go into the story and into how the characters feel a little deeper, and you don't need impressive or strange. Well, how is it strange? Why is it impressive? There's none of that. It's just, oh, this is impressive or this is strange, and strange happens a lot in this story for some reason, which is all great, but I want to see the strangeness. I want to feel and experience the strangeness and not be told this is strange and then nothing more about it. Another smaller part was where some of the reactions or some of the things didn't make quite sense. For example, where the professor takes away Eric's cell phone and he puts it in this little device where he presses a button and it shrinks. This is after he tells them about magic. So when they see this happening, there is no reaction whatsoever. I mean, in my books, that's magic. How can you press a button and the thing with the cell phone in it just shrinks to a size that it fits into his pocket? That's not normal. I don't know of a device that can do that. So why do the characters not react to this? Moving on to some of the bigger issues here. The motivation is not always clear. For example, when Joseph tells Eric about the jumping out on the island, he doesn't want to tell him that it wasn't Ben who told him about this, but we don't know why. Why won't he tell him? There's no reasoning behind this whatsoever. And then there are contradictions, such as where they see these lines and shapes. I think it was in the cavern, on the island they first went to. He says that there are familiar lines and shapes. We're not told how they are familiar until the next page, where he likens them to the shapes and lines that he saw in the professor's place. But then the page later, after they take some pictures with their cell phones, they're suddenly all unfamiliar. And I'm going to quote here, "Most of the symbols appear to be nothing more than strange shapes and other unfamiliar objects." So that really contradicts what was said before. Okay, now we're coming to the two greatest issues I have. One of these is that the characters and their actions are not always believable. And I'm going to give you some examples here. For instance, Ryan, when they meet him for the first time, he wants to be done. He's tired of them. He's bored with them. And yet he keeps on going on and on talking with them, constantly telling them how bored he is with them and how he's done with them, but he doesn't leave. Why doesn't he leave? If he's so bored and done with them, why isn't he just going? And then he nods to Boris, who quote unquote takes his leave, but then when the changed form of Ryan moves out, Boris is right there waiting for him. I thought he left. Another example is the whole explanation of where the professor was trying to awaken this magic inside of the boys, and he apologized for having sent them and everything, and that is because he wanted to try and get this out in this kind of natural way, I guess. But then he tries another device, which also seems rather dangerous. And then at the end, he promises them that this third attempt is going to be super, super safe and no problem at all. And the boys never question once why he didn't suggest this super easy, super safe attempt first. What did he send him on the way for, and going through all of this, if he had this really safe way? That is a thought process I would expect from the boys, but it's not there. Likewise, I ask myself as the reader, why does Ben seem to think that putting these two guys into so much danger is a better or more fruitful option than trying to make them trust him, maybe by being truthful after all the lies or whatever? All this time they didn't trust him. They didn't trust him at all. With everything that he's put them through, which is very understandable, they don't trust him. But then once they do awaken their powers, and when it's Eric's turn to try it out, suddenly, and I will quote this here, Joseph, by now, he had more trust in the man than ever. From what? He just put them through all the lies, all the dangers, then put this needle in the back of his head or back of his neck, which is another violation of trust. Sure, he awakened the magic, and he was right about the magic, but that doesn't make somebody trust you. And then, as we speak of the powers here, they get to the forest, and Joseph has to use his powers a second time to make them able to see the forest. And it says, and I quote again, this time was different. Professor Ben wasn't there to guide him, which is completely valid. That makes perfect sense. But then he has no problem doing it anyway. There is no hesitation, there is no complication, there is no greater effort than before. It's just, okay, it's different, but not really. I'll give you two more examples of the unbelievability in here in this story. One is that when they finally see the forest and they are trying to get into the forest, suddenly they decide that it is better to take a rest for the night, even though this whole journey of finding Ryan and stopping him has been completely urgent throughout the whole book. Really, really rushed, actually. It was even mentioned a few times, oh, he's rushing us here and there. But then they decide that they have to take a rest because it's dark. And they don't want to go in there in the dark, even though they have flashlights. Even though Ryan is already in there, and they make a point of saying that he's a day ahead of them, wouldn't that spur them on even more to just go in and go after him? How do they think that they have this time to stop and rest? And the second example is in the middle of the final battle, Eric decides, I mean, okay, he's this quirky, weird, childish character, but even for him, this is a bit much. He decides that he's looking on his phone in the middle of the battle for some epic battle music like you would find in the games during final battles. That, I'm sorry, I'm not sold on that at all. And that brings us to the biggest issue I have with this book. The characters are flat. Yes, you can distinguish them from one another. They each have their own little quirks, but they are flat nonetheless. There's a lot of this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens going on. There is no why in the story. There's no point to the story. Where's Joseph's motivation? Where's his why, his point in being here? He keeps on going on this journey. He has no clue why he's on, and no good enough reason to stay on, especially after their lives have been put in mortal danger. So what makes him stay? We don't know. The author could have drawn a connection between the dreams he's had, that maybe he wants to go on because he wants to find out what this is all about and what's going on, but it's not. He didn't do that. The character doesn't try to figure out the dreams. So the characters are left thrown in a situation they do not like, with the option to leave any time, and yet they stay. Why? There's also no desire in Joseph. There's the external wishes. They want to go to this game demo, which is cool, but there's nothing internally at all. What does Joseph want, and what will he do to get it? There's also no character arc. Joseph doesn't really change over the course of the book. Sure, he learns this cool magic and all that, but there's no internal change. He's still the same person he was before. A reasonable guy who goes on a journey for a reason nobody knows. Finally, the end. The end was unsatisfying for me. They went through all this, and for what? The ancient power that was inside of Ryan left, and Ryan has no reaction to this whatsoever other than, yay, I'm rid of it! What about what Ryan wanted? What he set out to do? Is he upset that his plans were foiled? That something got inside him he didn't expect? That maybe things didn't go the way he had planned? What is he going to do now, next? There's none of that. And then Brian and Boris just leave, and then the main characters leave as well, having accomplished absolutely nothing and apparently caring even less. So here you are. I think this author has a little more developmental editing to do. 2 stars on Goodreads. Thanks for watching.